good to go. Perfect, man. You guys, it's 9:06. Welcome back to September. Welcome back to the task force meetings. They're always fun. I've missed every last one of you guys. Miss Shelly Willis will not be here. She's on vacation. She's taking some time to herself. And I told her she needs to stay on vacation because half of us don't stay on vacation when we on vacation. So the rule was to stay on vacation this time and not be working anywhere else but with the things that she wants to do. So man, I'm just going to introduce you guys to the rest of this team. This is the Pierce County Community Engagement Task Force. If this is your first time, pop the little chat, pop the little hand thing. Is it the hand emoji? Is that what we're looking for? Is the hand emoji? Pop it up so I can just know that you guys are in the building, just so we can show you love. If it is your first time, please just let us know. We always like having new people here and just joining everything that we do. It's a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoy yourselves today. Man, I'm ready to rock and roll. I'll let Jeff talk more about what's going to happen today, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I've been waiting on this for the last almost month and a half, and it happened out of nowhere, to be completely honest with you. Delia hit me up and said, hey, I don't know if you know, but September is Hispanic Heritage Month. Would you mind just saying something? And I said, well, I could say something, but I don't know much about it. So why don't you do something and show all of us what it is? And she's like, well, did I just give myself more work? I said, yes, you did. So yes, she did. Let's build a team. Let's find a team. Let's make this happen. And they've been in the background doing some amazing things. And she's partnered up with some great people. So I'm really excited to see what she's getting ready to do. And I'm going to pass it over to Jeff so we can get this land acknowledgement started and get ready for the show.
Thanks, sir. Morning, everybody. Let's do this land acknowledgement and pay our respects before we get started here. We pay our respect to the elders, both past and present, who have stewarded this land throughout generations. We also express our respect for all other displaced Indigenous peoples who call Pierce County home. These are original homelands of the Nisqually, Puyallup, Squaxin, Steilacoom, and Muckleshoot. It is important to move beyond acknowledgement and reflect on your own history that brought you to this point. This land acknowledgement is one small step in an ongoing commitment to improve our support of Indigenous communities in the area. Thank you.
Right on. Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate you. So, like I asked earlier, for people that have never been to the Pierce County Community Engagement Task Force monthly meetings, the task force is a place for all of us to come together, be inclusive, have a voice that is heard from all of us, have a safe place. I know all of us do amazing, great work in this community, but to be completely honest, if we're not doing this work together, the community does not benefit. We have many people from many different sectors, many skill sets, many different walks of life, but we all come together as one unit when we come up under this umbrella. It is not about your organization. It is about you as a person, and it is what you bring to the table. I always say, you make this work great, allow your organization to leverage that work. It is every last one of you guys that make this community amazing, and we're able to support our community, support our clients, support our families and individuals. The mission of the task force is to foster economic mobility to individuals and families in Pierce County, not just Tacoma, Pierce County. This is all of our homes. We all stay in different areas of this, so we all have to continuously work together to be great. None of us can do this by ourselves. We recognize it and we understand it. I'm always proud to say that we are the new Motown. And anybody knows Motown, everybody knows that in Motown, everybody put that work in, and they were all driving Cadillacs all through the neighborhood because everybody put in to make great classics. There was no one star, they were all stars. And if they all came together, like now, we still listen to their music because they made classic hits. That's exactly what I look at this unit as. We are classic, we are stars, and we are all going to leave a legacy that our children and those many after will always know that we were the ones that did this, and we were all the ones that were willing to make the change in this community. So for all of you guys, thank you so much for being here. It's always a blessing to be able to collaborate with every last one of you guys. I hope you guys enjoy everything. Enjoy this show. This is not the beginning. This meeting is going to actually be amazing. And we got a lot of new things coming this year. So stay tuned, stay present, and stay engaged.
Awesome. So if we could have everybody in the chat put your name and your organization. We do this as a roll call. So if you could do that now, that would be fantastic. We use this as a way to kind of track who's attending and who's not, so that we can keep our roster updated and make sure that we've got everybody on there. So you're receiving emails and all that good stuff. If you're brand new, go ahead and drop in an email address too. And if you would like to join, we'll put in a link for you to go ahead and go sign up on the website. We'll wait for that for a second. And then we're going to dive right in. So I have the pleasure to introduce our presentation. And I was in the drive one yesterday, and I got to tell you, I'm so excited. I'm proud. Hispanic Heritage Month. We're kicking it off in a big way. This team, I'm so excited for everybody to learn about their personal experiences, more about them. And I think that really aligns with what the task force is doing and the way we're moving and getting back to relationships and getting back to our members and understanding who we are and where we come from. And that's what this presentation is going to give you. And with that, I want to introduce Miss Norinda Rosario Yancey as your facilitator for this presentation. Go ahead and take it away.
Excellent. Thank you, Jeff, so much. And buenos dias, everyone. My name is Norinda Rosario Yancey, Chief Equity Officer for Metro Parks. I will be your facilitator for this morning's Hispanic Heritage Celebration. We do hope that you enjoyed the music. We saw that a couple of people asked about it. That group is called Flores de Toloache. It's an all-female mariachi brand who brings a very fresh and bicultural approach to mariachi music performance. To get us started, we thought it would be great to hear from you. So in addition to what you've already typed into the chat for the roll call, we're asking you to tell us in the chat, what is it that you love most about your culture? And as you do that and starts to populate, we'll share some of those out loud in just a moment. But again, we want to thank you all for being here today. So let's see what you've got. What is it that you love most about your culture? Tell us in the chat so I can share some of that out loud with the group. Music, love it. Absolutely. Food, traditions, flavors. We call that sabor. That's right. Proud family, the beautiful homeland, stories, connection, tortillas, the value of nature, connection to family, resilience. Yes, the stories of our ancestors, Suzanne. Absolutely. You guys are going to make me cry. Traditions, how close-knit families are. That's right, Yvette. Tamales, fiestas, camping, food, folklore. It goes on. And it doesn't even matter what your culture is, right? Whether it's as far away as a distant land or whether it's as present as your neighborhood and the people that you celebrate your customs and norms with every day, right? Blessings of the elders, right? It's all beautiful. Baile. Thank you, Sarah. Love it. Okay. So as some of you know, there are 21 Spanish-speaking countries, not including the United States of America, right? And so today's presentation is just un almuerzo, an appetizer that includes an overview of Hispanic Heritage Month, Mexican-American history, education and representation, and the impact of assimilation and biculturalism and cultural identity in public spaces. So Jeff, can I share my screen? Or do you want to share the slide that shows the headshots and the agenda?
You're more than welcome to.
All right, cool. Let me see if I can get that going real quick.
And if it doesn't work, let me know and I can.
It should work. I just should have had it ready. Hang on. Go. So. All right. So can you all see that? Okay, so Delia Flores is going to be covering Hispanic heritage. Victor Rodriguez is going to be covering Mexican-American history. Carlos Ortiz is going to be covering education and representation. Rosie Ayala, impact and assimilation and biculturalism. And then Abigail Vizcarra-Perez is going to be covering cultural identity in public spaces. We didn't want to spend a lot of time on giving you titles and other information. We can always share that with you later. You'll know how to find us, but we wanted to stay on track with what we were sharing and give the bulk of our time to the presentations. So with that, I want to introduce to you, and I have the pleasure of introducing my colleague, my friend. We're going to call her La Madrina, or the godmother of today's Hispanic Heritage presentation, Delia Flores, our Community Outreach and Engagement Supervisor for Metro Parks. Delia, take it away.
Good morning. Buenos dias, mi gente. Thank you, Pierce County Community Engagement Task Force for valuing inclusivity and inviting us to kick off the celebrations of Hispanic Heritage Month. I want to express my gratitude to my co-presenters. Let me tell you, we have a powerhouse for you. In addition to having Norinda, Rosario, Yancey, Rosie Ayala, Avigail Vizcarra-Perez, Victor Rodriguez, Carlos Ortiz, we have partnered with United Way of Pierce County to bring an equity challenge. Thank you for agreeing to be here and to share your stories. In attendance, we have many service providers, and it is important for us to start by acknowledging that our Hispanic community, as many of our BIPOC communities, face many challenges and inequities. Those challenges and inequities are magnified by additional systems of oppression, such as our discriminatory and outdated immigration laws. Our community is suffering, and is suffering in silence because they're afraid to speak up and face further hardship that will negatively impact their families. We must come together to address and create positive changes in our policies, laws, break down the systems of oppression, and end racism once and for all. I know I'm speaking to the choir, and I know your passion and your commitment to create change so our communities can flourish. I have seen us rally around our communities at times of need, such as collaboration for a cause. We can't take our foot off the pedal. We have so much work in front of us, but I have faith that if we continue to work together, it can be done. Our work will affect not only those around us, but will impact those that come after us. Thank you for your support and commitment. Well, with that said, we are here to present on Hispanic heritage and kick off the celebration. So today is a fiesta, a pachanga, it's a celebration. So let's get started with the basic. Hispanic Heritage Month is an annual celebration of history and culture of the Hispanic Americans, Latino, and Latinx communities, and how these communities have influenced and contributed to American society at large. The term Hispanic or Latino, or the most recent term Latinx, refers to a person's culture or origin regardless of race. On the 2020 census form, people were counted as Hispanic or Latino or Spanish if they could identify as having Mexican, Mexican-American, Chicano, Puerto Rican, Cuban, or another Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin. Hispanic Heritage Month started back in 1968 under President Johnson as Hispanic Heritage Week. 20 years later, President Reagan expanded it to cover a 30-day period starting on September 15th and ending on October 15th. And finally, September 14, 1999, President George W. Bush became the first president to declare it as National Hispanic Heritage Month. A month is more like it. If you know any Hispanic, Latino, or Latinx, you know we need more than a week to celebrate, especially with 21 Spanish-speaking countries represented. There's a lot of good food to eat, great music to dance, and lots to celebrate. The day of September 15th is significant because it marks the independence of various Latin American countries such as Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua. In addition, Mexico and Chile celebrate their independence days on September 16th, listen up, not Cinco de Mayo, and September 18, respectively. Also, Columbus Day or Dia de la Raza, which is October 12, falls within this 30-day period. President Bush said, not all the contributions made by Hispanic Americans to our society are so visible or so widely celebrated. However, Hispanic Americans have enriched our nation beyond measure with the quiet strength of close-knit families and proud communities. As part of this proud community, the panel and I are very excited for the opportunity to present, celebrate, and share the richness of our Hispanic culture, achievements, and contributions to our country and community. We are here not representing an entire community, but to share our personal lived experiences, a little bit of history, showcase our diversity, and what is important and meaningful to each of us. We'll be extending an invitation for those of you who want to stay engaged and continue to learn to participate in the upcoming United Way of Pierce County 5-Day Equity Challenge and Equity Conversation. The 5-day challenge will start on Monday, October the 4th, and it will focus on racism and the Latinx community. It will be followed by an equity conversation on October 12th, led by Latinx leaders. With great pleasure, I yield the floor to my colleague, Victor Rodriguez. He will talk about Mexican American history, a brief overview.
Thank you, Delia. Good morning, everybody. My name is Victor Rodriguez. I'm the equity manager for the Tacoma-Pierce County Health Department, and I'm going to give you just a brief little overview of some key events of Mexican American history. That, as many of our histories, right? There's a lot that that's involved. And so today is just an introduction to some key events, and hopefully inspires you to do some more of your own research, you know, and learn more about, you know, Mexican American, Latinos, Hispanics in our community. And so I'm going to start off by talking about the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. And maybe some of you heard of this, maybe you haven't. But the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo ended the Mexican American War. The war was created when the U.S. Sent troops to a disputed piece of land along the Mexican-American border, and that was an intentional kind of thing to really prompt a war between Mexico and the United States. Essentially, Mexico wasn't, you know, ready for a war at that time. Mexico was going through a lot of political turmoil and other changes, and essentially lost the war in about 2 years, which led to Mexico having to give up a third of its land, which today would include California, Utah, Nevada, Arizona, and Texas. Obviously, this allowed the U.S. to expand economic growth dramatically. And also it had a huge, significant cultural impact in the United States, and particularly in the Southwest, but really across the U.S. And so we could see, you know, Mexican culture in various aspects of society, especially in the Southwest, but really across the United States. So this is significant for some of you. If you ever been or ever go to like a protest that, you know, Chicanos are leading, you often might hear a chant that says "We didn't cross the border crossed us," right? It's a chant that really signifies that a lot of Mexicans actually have lived in this land, you know, for time immemorial. If you're a Mexican that is proud and connected to your indigenous heritage. So that's the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. Really transformed American society in a lot of ways, right? The U.S. Gained a whole lot of resources because of that. Fast forward a little bit to another event called the Zuzu riots in 1943. And the Zoot Suit riots is when servicemen attacked and beat Mexican American youth who were wearing zoot suits. And zoot suits is a style of dress developed by African Americans in Harlem, and Mexican American youth incorporated that style into their dress and into their subculture called pachucos. I don't know if people have heard that, but pachucos are it's a subculture with Mexican American youth that was really popular in the 40s and 50s and 60s. And incorporated this dress into their culture, and at that time there was also a lot of racism going on, obviously, and Mexican Americans had a particularly a unique experience that it was intersected with immigration issues. So, but on May 23rd, 12 sailors and servicemen clashed violently with some pachucos. Youth near downtown Los Angeles. And then, so that kind of sparked this series of events, right? And then on June 3rd, 50 sailors left their naval reserve near Chinatown and began to attack anyone who was wearing zoot suits. And then from June 4th to 5th, rioting servicemen conducted search and destroy raids of Mexican Americans in downtown area. So essentially they just start going to stores, people's hanging out areas, start pulling them to the streets, beating them, and ripping off their clothes, all while police just kind of sat back and watched. And then the riot really escalated on June 6th and spread to East Los Angeles, where things really got worse for the following day. In June 7th is really when the peak happened with these riots. And then these major rioting ended in about June 8th. This kind of rioting ended in California, but it started to spread to other parts of the U.S. For example, in Detroit, Chicago, Philadelphia, Harlem, where also African American folks who were wearing zoot suits also began to get attacked. So this is a good example of how various groups often experience police brutality and state sanctioned kind of violence based on racism, right? So that's the Zoot Suit riots. Fast forward a little bit to 1954 to Operation Wetback, which is the actual name the U.S. government used to kind of push this strategy. And Operation Wetback is the biggest mass deportation of undocumented workers in United States history. As many as 1.3 million people have been were swept in this campaign with a racist name, which was designated to root out undocumented Mexicans from American society. The short-lived operation used military-style tactics to remove Mexican immigrants. Many of them were actually American citizens from the United States. Though millions of Mexicans were legally entered into the U.S. Through different immigration programs, like, for example, the Bracero program during the 1940s, the U.S. needed workers. So it was like, come on, come through. There's a lot of work here. But then by the 1950s, the economy wasn't doing too well, and so it used them as a scapegoat. So a lot of the people who were deported were actually, brought into the U.S. Through immigration programs. The Border Patrol agents and local officials used military techniques and engaged in coordinated tactical operations to remove immigrants. Along the way, they used widespread racial stereotypes to justify sometimes their brutal treatment of immigrants. Inside the United States, anti-Mexican sentiment was pervasive, and harsh portrayals of Mexican immigrants as dirty, disease-bearing, irresponsible were the norm. So this was also like the backdrop, right, that really allowed for these kinds of policies to take foot, right? So mass deportation of Mexican immigrants from the U.S. date back to the Great Depression, when the federal government began the wave of deportations rather than to include Mexican-born workers into the New Deal. We know that a lot of African American communities were also excluded from that. Right, and about 1 million people were deported during this time in the 1930s, 60% of which were U.S. citizens during that time. So instead of including them into the New Deal, they were like, let's just deport them. And unfortunately, this is a pattern that we see today, historically, a pattern where the U.S. uses immigration and immigrants as scapegoats, for political wins or when the economy is not doing well. Obviously, the most recent example is the Trump presidency, who literally started his presidency by calling Mexican rapists and drug traffickers. So really, he understood this history, right? So that's the Operation Wetback. And during the 1960s, though, a lot of these were connected and really led to the movement in the 1960s called the Chicano movement. So leading up to the 1960s, Mexican Americans had endured decades of discrimination in the U.S. And Southwest, particularly. And so after the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo that put an end to the Mexican-American War, Mexicans who chose to remain in the U.S. were promised citizenship and the right to their property, their language, and their culture. And this is part of the actual treaty. But unfortunately, like many of the treaties that the U.S. has, that wasn't upheld. In most cases, Mexicans in America, those who later immigrated to those regions in the U.S., found themselves living in second-class citizenship. The land grants promised after the war were denied. And so really led to a lot of poverty in the Mexican-American community. By the 1960s, though, many Mexican-Americans, particularly youth, have begun adopting the word Chicano as a way to, although it was once a racial slur, but as a way to recognize their own history and their own identity. And in particularly, really wanted to celebrate their indigenous roots and their African roots. Leaders in the movement pushed for multiple parts of Americans for changes in multiple parts of society. So the Chicano movement has kind of three overarching kind of pieces. There's a lot of stuff that was involved in the Chicano movement, and I really encourage you to check it out if you get a chance. But three of them I'm going to share with you today. One was the farm worker movement, led by Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta, who focused on farm worker rights. The other one was Reyes Lopez Tijerina, who pushed for land reclamation. And his work and the people who worked with him was really focused on the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo and trying to get the U.S. to comply to the things they agreed to in that treaty, like allowing Mexicans to keep their land, their culture, their language. And then meanwhile, you had the student movement embracing their indigenous and African roots and reclaiming who they are and taking control of their own identity. So all these were part of the Chicano movement. And ultimately, Chicano movement kind of did win some important reforms. So for example, the creation of bilingual and bicultural programs, improved conditions for migrant workers, increased the hiring of Chicano teachers, and more Mexican Americans began to serve as elected officials. A key term in the Chicano movement activism is self-determination. The idea that Chicanos were a nation within a nation, and that it had a right to self-determine its own future, make their own decisions, and really do the things they need to be healthy. So that is the Chicano movement, and let's fast forward even more and focus a little bit here on our own state, which is the Washington State Farm Worker Movement, which is focused on improving the conditions for farm workers here. And so many of you know my story, but that this is how I got involved in really this work. My family moved here in 1990 as farm workers, and we picked strawberries, cucumbers, fruits, and vegetables. And if you ever eat vegetables, I hope you do, right? It most likely it was picked by a farm worker. So farm workers play a profound role in our society. They literally feed us and really sustain the food system. So, but in particular, I wanted to focus on one key thing that happened here a few years back that I thought was a big win for the movement, which was the formation of the first Mexican indigenous-based farm worker union. So in 2013. 248 out of the 278 farm workers at Tacoma Brothers, which is a farm in Skagit County, went on strike after Federico Lopez, an employee at the time, was immediately fired when he asked for a raise. These workers were confronted by management team And, you know, they began to develop their demands, like they wanted, you know, sick leave, you know, pay raise, better housing, and also they wanted the racism and discrimination to happen, to stop. The Tecuma brothers responded by essentially firing all the workers who, you know, were organizing, and that led to the workers organizing and going on a boycott. And there was a lot of public support, lot of folks, you know, participated in the boycott, and ultimately applied enough pressure. Tecuma brothers had to sit at the table and work out a deal with this the Familias Unidas por la Justicia, which is the name of the union. And in 2017, they started their first you know, season of harvest with a contract, you know, that had better pay, that had, you know, included more protections for the workers that were there. And the union represents about 500 Triqui, Mixteco, and Spanish-speaking workers at Tecuma Brothers. And so, you know, despite, you know, the struggles, like many people in many groups, you know, one of the things that's always important to recognize is that from the very get-go, right, from the very get-go, there's of any kind of oppression, there's always resistance. There's always people organizing against that oppression from the very get-go. And so as hard as, you know, some of the things we've seen from Mexican American history has been, there's always been leaders and organizers who have been fighting for the right causes. And the last thing I would say is also too, if you look at even like the Chicano movement in the 1960s, but even today, a lot of what really created a strength during that time was cross-cultural, cross-racial coalitions, right? And really creating spaces where, you know, people of color can really identify the root causes of all our issues, you know, which is of course, you know, white supremacy, patriarchy, and capitalism. So with that, I'll hopefully have inspired you to check out a little more about some of these events and other events that help us understand American history. Mexican American history is American history, right? These events that I've shared have shaped all of us, right? Whether you're Mexican American, whether you're white, African American, right? All these historical events have really impacted all of us. And so it's our history, all of our history, and we need to celebrate and share it with our youth in particular. So with that, thank you for allowing me to speak a little bit around some of these important issues, and I'm going to turn it over to Carlos to share some more information.
Awesome. Thanks, Victor. Really appreciate that overview of our American history. It's always inspirational. So thank you for sharing that. So I'm Carlos Ortiz. I'm with Zeta Maya Entertainment, and I'm here to talk a little bit about education and representation overall, but specifically in entertainment. So one of the things that I've felt very strongly about my whole life was education, right? Because back in the days, I was born and raised in East LA, right? The barrio. Crazy times, you know, was there, and also lived in South Central during the alley riots, the crack epidemic, you know, the O.J. Simpson trial. So a lot of racial tension during that time, right? And I remember seeing my mom, right, work, you know, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, right? She worked in a sweatshop, essentially, right? So she was an immigrant that immigrated here to the U.S. Several years ago, and I was born here in the U.S. And she would always tell me, she like, you know, go to school, right? You know, make sure that you're not working like a burra like me, right? And making sure that nothing wrong with that, because obviously there's a necessity for people to do that kind of work. But, you know, conditions were definitely not ideal. And so that always stuck with me, right? It's like get an education, work hard, you know, get in a good career that's going to pay well. And so ever since then, you know, I've been, you know, dedicated to education. And now both formal and informal education is really important. And so, you know, getting a degree is important for those that, you know, require a degree. But one of the things that I'm an advocate for is also the arts, right? So I'm always behind STEAM initiatives, you know, that incorporate arts into the sciences. I feel that's very important, right? For me, it's been a creative outlet, you know, a way to express myself and also to connect with my community and like-minded individuals. Right. But also informally, you know, for me, I feel, statistically, I should not be here right now, right? Growing up in the barrio, East LA, South Central LA, all those areas, right? I could have easily been shot or, killed, so statistically speaking, I should probably be, in prison or, on drugs, anything like that, because it was definitely a crazy environment during that time. But I always felt, and I always say, I worked and educated myself out of the ghetto, right? So I decided to take my family, which is when I moved here to Washington, which is probably one of the best decisions we ever made. This community has been phenomenal to us. So I'm always about giving back, paying it forward, and, making sure that we provide opportunities to our youth and anyone, willing to work hard and develop a career, a professional career. And then also, while my boys were growing up, we would kind of like do like an educational barter, right? So where, I would teach their kids about sales or photography or video production, things like that. And they would teach my kids, we're also part of Boy Scouts. So it was a great support group. And then being able, to teach my kids about fishing and hunting and things like that, right? Survival out in the wilderness, so which was a great experience for us and our family. And then for me, like I said, I should not be here right now. So I see every day as a gift, right? As a present to really cherish, right? So every day I know I want to learn something every single day. I want to make a difference every day, and every day is an opportunity to get closer to my ultimate goals. And some of the things that we're working on, not only, through Zeta Maya Entertainment, but some nonprofits and some individuals that we're working with here in Pierce County, is to set up a sort of cultural arts, technology, and innovation center somewhere here in Pierce County, right? So it'll be for creative professionals and scientists, right? And bringing them together to have a safe place and a place, for educational opportunities, production opportunities, and employment opportunities. So if that's something that you're interested, I did put my contact information in the chat, so feel free to reach out to me, because that's something that we plan on opening here within the next 3 to 5 years. We'll feel it's a hub for the whole community to be able to come together and learn, and then also, be part of a mentorship program, because I've had some amazing mentors in my life. I've mentored, several people over the years, and also we want to establish a mentorship program where, we utilize the knowledge and experience of our elders, industry professionals, college age students, and even high school students, and beyond that, to really be able to have a connection, right? Because it's kind of interesting how, I feel a lot of knowledge, right, and wisdom is maybe gone to waste, right? So for me, I've had some people, share opportunities with me and their knowledge and their time, right, to be able to set me up for success. So I feel that's extremely important, right? Internships, extra, different opportunities to learn, because a lot of people it said like 50% of people don't go into the area of study, right, that they studied. And a lot of times it's because people don't realize what it really takes to make it in a certain industry, right? It's very difficult to make it in the film industry, television industry, and entertainment overall. So it's really important to, have somebody that can guide you, somebody that can, set up opportunities for you and make connections for you. And that's what I've had. So I feel very blessed in that respect, and I want to share those blessings with other people. And also, we're getting ready to launch a new chapter at the Latino Chamber of Commerce serving Pierce County. So I'm the executive director. We'll be making an announcement here in a couple of weeks, and then having a luncheon sometime in October, inviting some founding members and being able to, unite for progress and being able to come together and help each other out, right? So, and you don't have to be a Latino to join the chamber. It's just, you embrace the culture, want to work with other Latino businesses and so forth. So this is some exciting times, some things that I've been working on here for a couple of years now, and that I'm really excited to be a part of. So let's connect, let's partner, let's collaborate, and let's make a difference together, right? Because that's really what it boils down to, right? And that unity. And then also education has allowed me to, really appreciate other cultures, so I really appreciate you being here today to learn a little bit about, our Latino culture and being able to hopefully embrace it, right? Because, growing up or, raising my kids who always, went to different festivals, the Greek festival, a Chinese celebration, right? And it was a way to understand other cultures and other people. And I think that's what it takes, right? Because, people fear the unknown. So if you don't know about somebody, you don't know about their background. And I'm always encouraging people, right, to let your voice be heard, making sure that, that it's amplified. And one way to be able to do that is to, tell your stories through film, television, documentaries, and things like that, right? I'm a big advocate for, sharing our individual stories, and then making sure that, there's more representation. So in the slideshow or the resources that we provide, I'll be providing a report provided by the UCLA School of Social Services. I believe is the division that did this report on representation in film. And people of color represent over 40% of the population, but only 2 out of 10 people of color are directors or writers, and also women. So we're not really represented there. So it's really important that we educate ourselves, educate our children, and then also making sure that we're open, right? That we're open to other people's cultures and backgrounds and so forth. But I think that's really important, right? To be able to appreciate and embrace other cultures as well. So again, I'm Carlos with Zeta My Entertainment. I look forward to connecting with you, possibly partnering, and then see how we can create some beautiful art together. Thank you very much. And from here, I think I'm going to pass it on to Abigail. Is that correct?
It's Rosie's turn.
Rosie. Okay.
That's okay.
Rosie. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
All right. Peace. Rosie Ayala.
Thank
Floor
you.
is yours. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Carlos, and thank you all for having me. Before I begin, I just want to share how appreciative I am to be in this wonderful group of speakers this morning. It's not a common experience for a group of Latino professionals to gather like this unless there's some heavy investment or intention in making it so. So I could not let the moment pass without saying thank you to you all, and also to like everyone that supported to make this happen. Really, really appreciate it. So I'm here to speak a little bit about assimilation and biculturalism. And before I begin, I just want to set some kind of like grounding definitions, so we're all kind of speaking from the same kind of the same language. So I'll be defining assimilation as the practice that one acts or does in order to fit into a group that's accepted as like standard or successful. Let's just hold that loosely. And then for biculturalism, I want to be clear on the definition of biculturalism because I feel that sometimes it's used interchangeably with biracial, and that's really not the intention. Within this context, bicultural would be like embodying the practice and values and traditions of two different cultures. For many who have family from a different country and they themselves have spent their formative years or development years in a different one, that individual may be considered bicultural due to navigating and operating in these two different worlds. Assimilation is related to biculturalism in the sense that it's the institutional process of assimilation that often leads to biculturalism. Carlos spoke a little bit about like Latinidad and its representation in media, and kind of historically there's a lot of if you think of like blockbuster media, there's a lot of stereotypes that often perpetuate certain understandings without a deep examination or context into the culture that they are representing. I'm a personal fan of the arts and entertainment. However, when I see shallow representations of my culture, I'm pained that there's a lot of folks that just take that in as being real or being truth. This is why representation is so important. And this is why things like the arts, but also things like representation amongst teachers and staff and curriculum and practices and policies and celebrations like what we're doing today. This is why it's important to also do that. I want to share a personal story of how institutional assimilation impacted me at the age of 7. and how that kind of like kicked off my access and acceptance into essentially a different culture than what I was raised. I grew up in California. Both my parents are from Mexico, from Michoacan, Mexico. They moved to a rural part of California. That was my only, we didn't have many families, so it was just my nuclear family. And I only had exposure to Mexican practices until I started kindergarten. And then I realized that the people spoke different languages. I didn't know that was a thing until I was like 5, and I saw different faces, different things I just didn't understand. By the 2nd grade, I had caught up to my English speaking peers when it came to reading, which was great. But regardless of that, my 2nd grade teacher recommended that I be placed in speech therapy because I had a very thick accent, and they didn't feel that that accent was going to allow me to navigate forward. I was the only one in my class that that had this recommendation made for them, though the class was bilingual overall. There's other folks that also had thick accents, but their grade scores were not as high. So I just performed higher kind of in the math and sciences, but my language was just plummeted. And a lot of it was just language comprehension. And so from then on forward, after I went through that whole therapy, my parents agreed to it. My parents were also told, this is going to help your child. And so as any parent would, they want to support their child, especially them, for example, they didn't understand English. They were really going through the recommendations of the teacher. So from then on forward, I joined my English speaking peers in all future classes and assignments, and there were trips, and we were split off. And that was a very intentional split, language acquisition. And that is an institutional way in which assimilation also happens. This access to my English speaking peers also exposed me to the stereotypes that they thought were true and that negatively filled their narrative. There were constant questions like, what are you? Which to any adult, the question of what are you is a big question. But for like a middle school and a high schooler, like that's monumental. So let's also, just side note, let's just be compassionate to each other and courteous around the question of what are you? But it wasn't until college that I gained the vocabulary and knowledge to recognize what had occurred in those previous years. And I realized that I was able to exist this white culture at school and a Mexican culture at home and live in this like no man's land, however, perpetually needing a space to belong. And in college, I was happy to find folks that had that same experience. And so we found this like little place of belonging amongst ourselves. And we developed essentially a group for incoming freshmen who had a similar experience. So they were able to navigate college with the support of peers, but also with kind of senior peers that were able to advocate to faculty and staff like, hey, we need to do things differently. Regardless of this, I want to share that one of the beautiful things that came from this experience is that I developed the skills and almost like second nature to understand different thoughts and ideologies and backgrounds and experiences. Things like empathy and patience were a cornerstone of my family growing up, and I was able to bring that forward to all the spaces that didn't have that. And it felt a little controversial, but also it's kind of like, why are you hating on something that's so helpful? And I almost ask that question sometimes, like, why do you say no to patience, or why do you say no to pause? And for that, I'm deeply grateful. It's because of these institutional practices that I experience, why I feel representation is so important in all facets, and why a deep examination of history, kind of like what Victor shared, and also what Carlos is doing, why that's really important. And it's important to have that representation to enhance our knowledge and understanding and to build a more inclusive environment. All people will benefit cross-generationally, cross-culturally, and just across the ages. So with that, I will leave you all. I will pass it on to, I think, Abigail, right? Awesome. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Rosie. I love hearing stories that make me feel like less alone in that experience. I experienced this similar things. So whoever is sharing our presentation can throw up some slides that have some images on them of culture in public spaces. That's my topic today. My colleagues from Metro Parks are on, so I'm going to talk about them, but they're here so they can defend themselves if I make a mistake. Mostly I'm just going to tell you how great they are. The images you're about to see are from all over the world. You'll see Aztec dancers in a Zocalo, sort of a basement of the city. It's like the public square, and it was built on top of sacred Aztec lands. And so they come back and do the ceremony there. You're also going to see a Day of the Dead celebration that includes these gigantic constructions of kites. Because I want you to get a feel for all over the world when people are experiencing their culture in public spaces. Metro Parks oversees a quantity of public spaces that are important places for cultural expression of all kind. And we also oversee millions of dollars of public funds, and we must remain accountable for inclusive procurement practices and design elements. So during Hispanic Heritage Month, we have the opportunity to recognize the diverse expressions of ancient cultures that survived in spite of extreme danger and terrible atrocities. And we also celebrate the mysterious disappearance of ancient civilizations and remember their unique contributions. These monuments, language, habits that remain carried in the DNA, in the human bodies. These habits of the people who came before us are events, and they are obvious in these architectural wonders and longstanding practices. So we're compelled to honor the legacy of these ancient warriors, scientists, healers, athletes, and artists to recover from the negative impacts of conquest and respect the immediate needs of their descendants. All of us on this presentation today. It's a huge task, right? But one that we're willing to take on. Last year, the outreach and engagement team was comprised of your very own Courtney Akoff, Delia Flores, and myself, and Metro Parks supported our efforts to become certified diversity consultants. The courses challenge our thinking about culture, ability, bias, and we realize that the most important skill we possess in this work is an expanded curiosity. So we do not think of ourselves as culturally competent. We have learned to prize cultural humility, even about our own cultures. The celebration of Hispanic heritage this year looks different for me because my role in our community is constantly evolving. My number one task this year is to ask questions, to challenge my beliefs about the ways my culture is expressed in public spaces. My father was born to a Mexican immigrant mother in the immigrant neighborhoods, the barrios of California during the years of buildup to the peak of Operation Wetback. So it probably won't surprise you then to hear, especially on the heels of Rosie's story, that I was taught not to speak Spanish in public. I was taught to assimilate. I was taught that I could pass for white, and I should. And it wasn't until graduate school that my professors called me out into a more honest expression of my identity as a bicultural professional in public, not for my own sake, although I have benefited, but for the sake of those I was preparing to teach and lead. So as I continue to overcome the outsized internal biases, I realize more and more that I can also work to overcome the biases in our systems, especially because all of you are along in this journey with me. Many of you have been doing this work much longer than I have. I just got to Tacoma in 2014, but I've already seen Tacoma show up for cultural expression in public through arts, events, improved accessibility. And I'm excited because we can reshape the city so that cultural expression is part of every public space. And now my computer stuck and my notes are not showing up. So what I want to make sure that you see is this idea that people are craving the social connections, right? That they are craving, demanding public gathering spaces. And this is so important to us at Metro Parks because we can build these relationships. Rather than our designs dictating culture, our culture can move toward dictating our designs. It's fantastic work we're about doing. And I think that as all of you here have a role in the economic development of our area, you'll understand the amount of space that we need for these giant kites, or the gate of the Aztec warriors, or the way that the incense that we call copal will rise through up into the atmosphere in our outdoor celebrations. We can build places where the acoustics amplify the sound of children singing, or the event that happens every year on Dia de la Independencia. We call it El Grito because it's this vocal expression. It's a cry out for freedom. There's an international movement going on, making a place for culture improves the health and well-being for our most vulnerable neighbors. And this has never been more important than it is during a pandemic that puts Hispanic lives at a particularly high risk. So I hope that we have piqued your curiosity about all these important expressions of honor, dignity, respect, and our ancestry. So you'll learn more about my culture and yours. So then I get to say, Viva la cultura, and hand it off to Norinda.
Okay, Abigail, that was absolutely fantastic, right? Even with the little glitch, no big deal. So hang on one second. I want to make sure I bring up the next slide. We want to thank all of you for being here, and we want to thank the Pierce County Community Engagement Task Force for giving us this time. Of course, we couldn't get to everything. It was just a sampling, but we wanted you to know that, again, this is sort of the official launch into the season for us. We're collaborating with United Way of Pierce County and their Hispanic Heritage Equity work. And so their challenge is going to begin on October the 4th. And we're also going to be participating in an equity conversation on October the 8th. United Way, as well as Pierce County Community Engagement Task Force, is going to be hosting some of this information on their website. So you're going to be able to get access to all of this awesome information. Hang on one second so I can just put it up there for you to see. But here we go. I'm sure you can see that by now. Is that right? Okay. So we've got, it's called the Racism and Latinx Community 5-Day Equity Challenge. If you're not already registered, you need to do that. It's going to be chock full with videos to watch, podcasts to listen to, articles to read, and also, like I said, that community conversation. The time has not been determined, but will be soon. I don't know if we have any representation from United Way on the call. I didn't see that, but we can get an update from them. And that's probably going to involve getting some feedback from the council. So one of the other things that United Way has done, and we have some friends on the call who did this for the Asian and Pacific Island challenge that United Way did. We're putting together an advisory council. So if you have a Latino, Hispanic, Latine, as I prefer to say, not Latinx, I like to say Latine, but if you are Latine and you want to contribute to this opportunity, please feel free to reach out to any of us who are part of the presentation panel, and we'll be happy to get you connected to that link. And I think we still have a little time for Q&A, Jeff.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, fantastic. So if any of you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand or put them in the chat, and we'll do our best to keep up with that until we hear that we've run out of time. Okay. So let me go back. I'll stop screen sharing. Let me go back to the chat so that way I can see if anybody's hands are raised, and I'll ask my team to holler if you see any hands raised that I'm not seeing. Send me something. or just jump into the call. Appreciate all the thanks and all the compliments in the chat. That was pretty exciting. So I tried to respond to some of those, and then there were some side conversations. Could we get a copy of Rosie's definitions in assimilation and biculturalism? I'm sure that's an easy yes, right, Rosie? We're happy to share that.
Absolutely.
More from Carlos. Yeah, we've got plenty of resources. We had to tell our panelists to hold back a little bit because we want to make sure that we are really using the United Way Challenge as a vehicle to kind of put it all out there so people can pick and choose what they like. Oh, there's also going to be a playlist. We're not going to miss the opportunity to have a Hispanic Heritage playlist. So definitely know that. And if there are questions that should come to you later and you feel a little weird about it, like, it's okay. You can reach out to us. I'm pretty sure you know how to find me, and you can find Jeff or Tamar, Rosie, right? So you can definitely get to us. All right, well, if there aren't a bunch of questions, we don't have to spend any more time on that right now. I just want to thank everybody for being here. It always feels like family when we get to see all these familiar faces. So thanks again to the task force and the leadership of Kelly and Jeff and the other Jeff and Tamar, and also the platform that Workforce Central provides for this. So thanks again. Peace.
Fantastic. Round of applause. All right.
That was fire. That was fire, man. First, man, thank you guys. That was just great. And to be completely honest with you, it just filled me up just to really take a moment to learn about another culture, the disparities, the lessons. I thank you guys for just opening up and letting us know you guys' story. Learned so many things. I know me and Delia spoke offline about a few things that I really wasn't aware of, that she really just helped me, and was great to just be open to educate me and answer questions. So please, anybody on this call, if there are questions, I don't, with this journey we're all going through with different cultures, I do not believe that there's a dumb question. I believe that if we hold on, we stay confused. So continue to educate yourself. Thank you guys for coming on to educate us as a unit, as a team. And I hope that we just take this out to the community to continue to do this beautiful work. Thank you guys so much. And with that, we're gonna go on to what's new. So over the past few months, over the last year, honestly, we did some great things from the Lens of Equity miniseries, the mental health presentation, the HR's new red line presentation. We did a lot of great things, and it was really bold for us to do these things because these aren't topics a lot of people really talk about, especially in big groups. And when we do present, we come very open, very blunt, and we make sure that we're actually getting the education that needs to be out there. We took a blackout month in August because as a team and as a leadership, we really believe that as much as we focused on DEAI and mental health, that all of us needed to just take a break and really just take some of our time back and focus on ourselves mentally, emotionally, physically, because there's been a lot of hard things that have happened in the last 16 months, as we all know. And as we move forward, Jeff and myself, we really just talked with the rest of this leadership, and we decided that moving forward, the task force meetings will be every other month. So the next one we will have will be in November. But there's a reason behind that, is because, and Jeff will talk a little more about it, we wanted to give ourselves time to truly reflect and do this work that we're meaning to do, work on these initiatives, work as a team. It is really hard to jump from one to another, but we also wanted to give you guys time to be able to reflect on what's going on and put it to use, and give you guys time to just sort of let what's happening in these meetings sit inside your soul, to give you guys time to think about these things and see where you're going to implement it in your life instead of coming right behind you with something else to learn. I know that sometimes, myself included, it just gets overwhelming when you're trying to embrace so much because you want to learn it all, but it doesn't give you time to just take it in and get the understanding on why it was even presented in the first place. So moving forward, the task force meetings will be every other month. That does not mean that we will not be together, because we have a lot of work. a lot of different committees going on, initiatives happening. The group will be talking to you guys more about those initiatives and what we really need from you guys moving forward. We've done great through COVID. We've done great in the last 16 months, but it's time for us to do more. You know, a lot of us use the pandemic to really just identify things that are happening. And I challenge every last one of you guys on what's the plandemic? What's next? You know, what's next? We can only use this for so long. We have to keep moving forward and figure out how we're going to consistently change this community. And that's by us coming together, brainstorming, bringing great ideas to the forefront and not being afraid to execute them. We got to execute these things. And so it's going to take all of us to do so. That's why Jeff and myself really just felt that that gap in between each of these meetings would be great for us to come together in smaller groups to do work together and do meaningful work, impactful work. You know, I don't want to come to the next meeting and do an update. I want to come to the next meeting and tell you the wins that happened over that time that we were not together. That's what we're focused on, and that's what we're trying to do right now. So by the end of this meeting, the ask is going to be engaged and get involved. We have great presentations and we have great things that are happening, but we need you guys' help. You know, we need you guys' help as we move forward. We need your talent. We need you to be involved with everything that we're doing. With that being said, I'm gonna let Jeff take this over, and we're gonna continue to bounce back and forth, introduce a couple of the leaders on this team to talk about the things that we need as well moving forward. So again, Norinda team, you guys, thank you so much for bringing this fire to this presentation. Plenty more to come with that, and stay tuned. We have a lot of things to talk about today. Thank you.
Perfect. And just to echo that again, so proud of Norinda, Delia, Carlos, Rosie, Abigail, and Victor. Like, coming out of the dry run yesterday, I was proud, and I couldn't wait for today. So thank you again. To add on to what Tamara was saying, not having a meeting every month doesn't mean that we're not going to have these spaces where we have, you know, these courageous conversations or other presentations. Those are still going to happen. We're just not going to have, you know, the monthly meeting. So so don't worry about that. In addition, we're going to do a kind of a monthly newsletter with more content. It's not going to just be a text email. We're actually going to put something together with video, with pictures. All of the meetings that are going to be happening that month will all be in there with dates and times so that it's easier to track. All that stuff will be on the website. Really just trying to give everybody an easier place to find everything instead of having constant flood of emails with this stuff. So that's something new that we're going to be doing. The whole idea is really to get everybody more engaged. And that's kind of the focus, is by reducing a lot of these meetings, by reducing the amount of time that we have to sit on Zoom, we're giving back so that you can get engaged in the work that we're supposed to be doing. And that's the whole point of the task force, is relationships and doing the work that we're all proud to do. So the newsletter should be starting next month, and we're really excited about that. And then let's see. Okay. The next topic is engagement. Let's see. So many of you probably know this, many of you don't. We started doing really intentional onboarding about 2 months ago. And the idea behind that is, like I said, to really take the feedback that we've gotten from everybody, not really knowing how to engage, not really knowing how to get involved. It was very meeting heavy, but nobody really knew where they could be used or their superpowers could be utilized. So we changed our onboarding strategy. And if you haven't gone through that, please do. We can put the link in the chat. Go in there, fill out the form, set up a meeting with Tamar and I. We really want to know you as the member. We want to know what superpowers you're bringing. Why are you wanting to do this work? Within that, we're going to set you up with 2 connections right away.
And with that, when we talk about 2 connections, so you guys, when you guys speak, your voice is heard. We listen to you guys, and sometimes it takes longer to implement something, but we're honestly paying attention to what you guys are wanting, because this is about all of us. This is not about Jeff and myself. This is about all of us as a unit. And one of the things that we heard that was hard is people, well, I'm an extrovert, but it's hard for people to jump into a group when they don't know people. And a lot of times when we talk about conversation or, man, how did you find out about this? It's usually me that most people are, hey, it was Tamar, or hey, it was Jeff, for the few people that people are familiar with. And so we wanted to be intentional on connecting people together before they even come to a meeting. So we called them task force buddies. And we're going to rely on every last one of you guys, because you're going to end up getting an email at some point in time introducing you to somebody else. And it may be, hey, Peter, let me introduce you to Tim, or let me introduce you to Krista. And the reason we wanted to do that is because after being onboarded with Jeff and myself, we actually really find out a lot more about you, and we ask you a lot more questions than you honestly think. And some people don't understand their superpower because they're never asked that. But we take that, we figure it out, and then we see who's going to be the best fit, not organizationally, who's going to be the best fit to connect you guys with passion, with your personal goals, your insight, what you want to do in this community, because we all talk to each other. So I know what most of you guys want to do if I've had time to sit with you. So why not connect somebody that is coming in, getting ready to take the same journey with us, with people that have already taken this journey, are a part of this journey, but really can connect with them and build relationship. So as we're going down the line and we're having these meetings, you don't feel like you're alone. You can sit and come in and say, oh, those are my friends right there. How you guys doing? Let's connect. And then you start building more. And then we start casting a wider net, and everyone is comfortable being here. We want to hear all of you guys' voices. And a lot of times we don't hear voices because either you're new or you're uncomfortable speaking in large atmospheres. And that's fine. Throw it in the chat sometimes. I don't care how you do it, but we want to hear your voice, because your voice is just as important as mine, Jeff, Norinda's, whoever else loves to talk. You guys' voice is just as important. Your ideas are just as important. I just want to make sure as we move forward with Jeff and myself that we make sure that this platform is universal for everybody. It doesn't have to be a presentation. It doesn't have to be you speaking. We just want to make sure that you're comfortable on the platform that we are creating as we move forward.
And in addition to your voice, time. Your time is super important as well. And another announcement that we're making is we are removing the 3 groups. So we are not going to have a people's group, an outreach group, or an organizational structures. Those pieces and leadership will now be our pillars of focus, that we will not lose sight of those things. But by removing the groups, it basically allows us to not work in silos. It allows the leaders within the task force and the members of those groups to now understand what everybody's doing, what every initiative is doing, instead of just focusing on that one group. By removing those meetings, it also saves time so that you can dive into the initiatives and help us and figure out where to get involved. So those will be gone. But like I said, those leadership, outreach, organizational structures, and peoples and providers, that's our lens that we make our decisions on. Those are our pillars. So those will never go away. Loop City is still here. We just have less meetings.
Yeah, Loop City got to be here, because if not, I don't have a city to be a mayor of at the moment. So I'm the mayor of Loop City. So we can get rid of the groups, but the pillars got to be here because this is my city. But with that being said, the groups were great because we were just growing. We've grown beyond that now. We understand our movement, we understand our focus, and we understand where we're trying to go. So when we removed those and said those are our pillars of focus rather than who makes us, because some people would get into a group and there were so many initiatives built in that group that if you had 3 hours to volunteer, you couldn't even give 15 minutes because we spent so much time talking about so many different initiatives that your head was spinning trying to give your all, but you couldn't really give your all because there was a lot of things going on. So we wanted to make sure that we focused on a few major initiatives that have grown over the last year, have been very collaborative throughout, but we wanted to make sure that none of you guys felt like you guys were in silos. at all. All of you guys can choose to be where you are, when you want to be there, and give what you can give, because just because you're part of one initiative doesn't mean that you don't have a great idea that can push another initiative along. Hell, you might have an initiative that you want to come up with. Now, as Delia found out, you come up with an idea, you're going to do the work of that idea. So be cautious on the ideas that you bring to the table, because you're going to be a part of that idea. A lot of great things happening, but I want to bring on a few people to really talk about these initiatives that we need you guys to be a part of. They're great things that have happened. We're doing incredible things with them, but we need more help. We need more of you guys to be involved in these things. Like I said, when you guys are involved, we all get these wins. Everyone in this group gets these wins. The organizations get these wins, but ultimately the communities get these wins. But when there's only 2 or 3 people working on one thing consistently, you get burnout. So we got to be able to tag team. We got to be able to high five. We got to be able to pass the baton sometimes. So coming up, we're going to talk about these initiatives, why they're so important, the outcomes we want from these initiatives. And by the end of this, I hope to see a lot of you guys reaching out and trying to figure out where you bring your super strengths, where you bring your power, because we need you guys, not just on the meetings every other month. We need you guys there with us on this journey to make these changes sustainable and not just temporary.
Did you want to do introductions?
Yeah, I thought you were taking an introduction. My bad. We didn't talk about this. This was not planned. This is live right now.
All right, let's start with Krista, right? Leadership.
Yes, sir. Lens of equity. Go ahead, Miss Krista Perez.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. The presentation was great, by the way. I really loved it. I am Mexican-American, so it was great to hear some of that history, and some of it I hadn't heard, so thank you so much. So I just want to share a little bit about the Lens of Equity series that we held this year and kind of what we're looking forward to in this upcoming year. We really wanted to highlight local people involved in diversity, equity, access, and inclusion work. And so we had a lot of local folks that did presentations that were really broken into 3 segments, right? So the segments focused on DEAI work with people and in practice and in policy. And it was just about how promoting DEAI in an organization can serve the community that we're meant to serve, right? So we're always, I know this, I talk to a lot of you, we're always asking each other, how can we really meet the needs of the communities that we're wanting to serve? You know, how can we increase access? All of these different questions we're always asking amongst each other. And that's really the focus of this work, is coming together, sharing kind of our solutions, what has worked, and also really working on keeping that lens always there and at the forefront. I think that it makes us the most powerful is when we're really applying it in our personal lives as well as professionally, right, in our organizations. The really awesome part about this series was that everyone in the series also gave tools to support the work, and there's free access to these tools. So if you go to the task force website under resources, I think you'll see all the resources and tools that were left there. I just went through them yesterday and I was like, this is amazing. So your organization can go there, look at the tools, use them, kind of use the drafts to kind of form your own. But really it was, you know, our local folks really giving back in that way and coming together to collaborate. And I guess I would say the mission through the Lens of Equity series was just really to keep the DEAI work in the forefront. So we just are always working towards that. I know Tamar has mentioned that several times. We're not really going back to this, you know, pre-COVID, like what's DEAI, right? Like, no, that's not happening anymore. Okay. We all know what it is. And we're really working to make this, you know, like a lifestyle, who we are and what we focus on in the work that we do. So if this sounds interesting at all, oh, also next year, Lens of Equity Summit, right? So I think we're shooting on October, right, Tamar? So if
we're looking at October.
Okay, cool. So if you're interested at all, email Chloe. I don't know if Chloe has dropped her email in the chat, and just let her know that you're interested and we'll get you connected.
Definitely. Thank you, Krista, because Anybody, I don't care who you are. If you know how to plan a birthday party, you better join this committee because we coming with a bang next year. The summit is coming, presented by the task force, and we want to go big on this. So we're going to need a lot of like-minded individuals that want to see us do this. We're looking at bringing in different speakers, but I don't want to go across to the East Coast to bring in a speaker. We got too much great power in this county to sit and have to go outside of this county to have keynote speakers. You know, I want to bring in spoken words. I want you guys to be able to host classes and teachings on whatever feels good to you guys that is going to keep the DEAI lens in this movement. So October 22nd, we are looking at a summit. Get with Krista, get with Chloe, let them know that you want to be a part of this. But if you can plan a birthday, we can plan a summit together. So let's go. And then I'm gonna turn it over to Amanda with the Speakers Bureau.
Hey everybody, I'm Amanda, and yes, we are working on the Speakers Bureau initiative. So for those of you who haven't heard me talk about it yet, the Speakers Bureau is where we bring in people with lived experience who are paired with an assistant and given some help in cultivating their life story and presenting it to the group, to providers, community, and pretty much anyone who's willing to work with us. The whole goal behind this is that nobody can tell somebody what they need to help them better than that person themselves. And the Speakers Bureau provides a platform for people with lived experience to do so. And so our speakers come through and they tell us their story. They tell us, what really worked for them and kind of getting them to overcome their challenges and what didn't work for them. And it's allowed us to have some amazing opportunities as far as events for our speakers. We've sat on panels and answered questions about how to address homeless camps and how to keep the homeless and the community safe at the same time. We're organizing focus groups so that our speakers can get more information from other people with lived experience about what's working and what's not, and that data is being analyzed. We're setting up podcasts, we're really getting these voices out there. And we're definitely going to need a lot of support coming up. We're looking to expand and bring on some new speakers, which means we'll also need some assistance and some support work as well for organizing these different types of events. And an amazing thing that I'm really excited about is that we have received some donations and grants, so we will be paying our speakers as well. And that's just the first step into, setting these speakers up to become, the people that they never thought they would be. And so if that's something you want to get involved, send Chloe an email. We could definitely use all hands on board because we are skyrocketing fast and it's such an amazing, beautiful experience. Our next Speakers Bureau check-in will be on the 17th from 1 to 2. And again, send Chloe an email if you're interested and we can get you into that meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Definitely, no doubt. Thank you, Amanda. And for you guys online, please realize that your stories are just as valuable. We've all been through things, and sometimes we just need to highlight our story to make changes in the system. So don't feel that if you're helping, that you can't tell your story and be a part of the Speakers Bureau as well. We're looking for organizations to bring these speakers in to actually listen and hear closely. I'm tired of seeing programs that have been built and they've never asked the person that they're meant to be serving. And then all of a sudden, a year later, we're $500,000 gone and nobody asked why. It's time for us to start building programs that make sense because we're listening to the people that we're choosing to do this work for. And all of us have been a part of that. All of us have seen these things happen. So please, if there's organizations that you know could use these types of speakers, go on our website, pccetf.org, pull up the Speakers Bureau initiative. You can see what they talk about, the speakers that we currently have. I hope that you guys become speakers, and if not speakers, speakers coaches. Lend whatever talent you have. You can listen to a story. You can help write a story. You can help flourish these young adults that are coming in here and truly telling their stories. I've had the opportunity to listen to some of them, and they're absolutely amazing. They're mind-blowing, and they'll crush you, but it makes them stronger. And I've been very honored to be a part of that. So please reach out, come be a part of this initiative, because all of us have something to tell or something to give. I'm going to go ahead and go with Miss Kelly Blucher, who runs with the Collaboration for a Cause unit. They've been doing some great things. Highlight those things that you're doing, and hey, let the people know what we need.
So Tamar calls me last night and he's like, I need you to really sell this. I need you to be excited. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure everybody on this call has met me before and like knows my passion, my enthusiasm. Just I ride for the community. I love these events. This is such a great presentation. Thank you, Carlos. This is such a great presentation today. I'm very honored to be a part of that, and thank you. And I also wanted to take a minute to recognize all the parents out there sending their kids back to school. Oh, the struggle is real. The struggle is real. So keep up that good work. Definitely we're praying for you and getting those kids to the first day of school. And please pray for me too. That was a shout out to me too. So at any rate, so Collaboration for a Cause, oh my goodness, we are just doing some amazing things. So throughout the pandemic in the last year, we are way up over $500,000 of all kinds of supplies, essential needs, whatever it may be, out into our community. We've done anything from backpacks, most recently, I'm going to talk about that event, to air mattresses for our unhoused neighbors that came with like battery operated pumps. Some really cool stuff that we've been able to bring together through this group to get out to our community. So we've had 2 Collaboration for a Causes actually in the last month and a half or so. At Collaboration for a Cause 4.0, amazing event. We had over 80 people come out, and we held that here at Goodwill. Our second event, we've been learning. So if you notice, we're going 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. I don't know what's going to happen when we hit 20. I don't know. Maybe we'll come up with we should do like Roman numerals. I'm not sure how we're going to do it. But 5.0, so we're looking back at all these events and we're like, what can we do differently? And really, we've talked, throughout this entire pandemic about things like access, whether it be access to technology, whether it be transportation access, whatever it is. And we're like, how can we address that with these events? So what we did with Collaboration for a Cause 5.0 is we actually took that out to a Tacoma Housing Authority complex. So it was a Dixon Village, which was about 40 units or so. They had over 125 kids in those units. And so we took Collaboration for a Cause out to them. So we distributed over 115 backpacks, had a lot of our organizations that are present here today. So thankful for all of you that came out. It was just such an amazing event. So not only are we supplying kids with what they need to go back to school, taking a little bit of that burden off parents that I was just talking about. But what we're really doing is connecting with services now, whether that be education, training. We have BEMA out there for housing, healthcare, vaccination clinic, whatever that particular community needed, that's what we brought to the table. So what are we looking at doing in the next year? Well, we want to do the same thing, but we want to keep expanding that to other communities as well. So I need your help with that, right? So Tim, Courtney, Delia, my partners on the outreach group, y'all have been amazing. We need everybody's minds here today to figure out what communities and how we can get out there, and also what we can bring to those communities. If you've heard me talk before, I always say it's not for me to assume what the community needs, but I'd like the community to tell me. So, and that's what we're doing in this group. So we need to know what the community needs. And I think with all these amazing minds on here, we can figure out how to get those resources out here. So another amazing thing we're doing on September 17th, if you all, again, Hire 253 is kind of my flagship deal, biggest job fair in Washington State that we know of, ending homelessness one job at a time. This is totally geared around our unhoused neighbors. I have now partnered with the Pierce County Community Engagement Task Force and I don't know, 20 other organizations to pull this off. So I do want to talk about that for a minute too. We're looking for over 120 volunteers. We have 256 feet of mobile units coming out this time, which includes everything from dental, medical, laundry services, veterinary services, you name it, it's out there. We've partnered with Project Homeless Connect. So we're going to have like coordinated entry, housing, all kinds of services out there. And then of course, Hire 253, which is all about our education, mentorship, training, and employment. So I would love for all of you to be a part of that. Now, I'm not sure that we can get every organization on here to have a booth. We are taking over a park and have limited space, although we do have a lot of Metro Parks people on here. So maybe, I don't know, City of Tacoma, like close those streets down. Let's do this. But yes, we would love to have your help with that as well. And I'll send out a flyer via this email for Hire 253. And Courtney, I believe, when is our next? We have some outreach meetings that are coming up, but we could certainly, again, use a lot of help in that planning and continue to bring these services to the community. So was that excited enough, Smart? Did I pump people up? Hey.
It was No, man, I'm very proud of you. But like she said, man, we need volunteers. We need volunteers. To get prepared for these things, it's a lot of work. And till lately, it's been 5 people doing this. 5 people. And I know on every call that we have 70 to 90 people. And so I would rather you not come to this meeting and give that 2 hours as a volunteer. It's the same thing. We're still winning. If I missed you on a meeting, but I saw you in person, or I saw you out here giving back to this community, I'd rather have that personally. But we got to come out here. We got to start volunteering. We got to be together. Collaboration for a cause is going to be very big going into 2022. We're looking to hit 7 different areas, 7 different cities, and really bringing what they need and not what we assume. We're looking at connecting with the businesses from that area. I believe you shouldn't have to leave your community to live in your community. So let's partner with all these businesses. Leandra, I see her on here. She represents the bank. Hey, bring the bank to the booth. Bring the bank to the community too. I'm with that as well. We can help educate and continue to partner. If you have something, if you have a booth, if you have an organization that you want to come to the community with us, please join this group. Let's get out here together. Let's start changing these things together, but it's going to take all of us. I ain't stuffing bags no more of everybody else's flyers. I ain't even gonna lie to y'all. If you got a flyer, you got a booth, bring the education, because I can't talk about what your organization does better than you do. So come out there and come talk, come support, come be involved with this. The point of today is being involved. Get engaged. Don't just sit around. Are you in the loop? Are you in the lobby? It's real. We all get these wins, but I want you guys to be proud that you guys all earn these wins. So come together, get engaged. These are 3 amazing initiatives that we're doing incredible things on, and there's room for every last one of you guys to be on anything and everything that you want to, but I want to see you guys engaged. Let's make it happen. We're doing some incredible things. I know, Jeff, if you want to talk about the corner real quick and we can wrap this up. Thank you guys for talking about these initiatives. You guys make this work happen. I can't wait to see what this team looks like and all these initiatives over the next month or 2. And let's take it into 2022. It's time to ramp it up.
Yeah, so the corner, I feel like you just closed this out. That was good. So I'm gonna come back in. So the corner is kind of our Facebook Live / podcasts that we're doing to highlight vendors. We really want to start to highlight, or not vendors, but our members. And we really want to understand who our members are. And this is the time to do that, where we get to bring you on, learn more about you, what got you here, what makes you tick, that sort of stuff, and then highlight your programs and what impact you're making on the community, and really try to figure out who you want to work with, right? And then highlight that on the website, on social media, and really just kind of put our members out there for the rest of us to get to know. And by asking who you want to work with, we can make those connections and start getting some of those collaborations to actually happen. By calling them out, it's a little bit of an accountability push, right? And that's what we're here for. I think something that underlying and not written about the task force is the amount of personal and professional growth that happens within our members, within each other, and how we're all growing together. And that's what this highlights. So if you would like to be on the corner, let us know. We would love, we're booking it out already. We're trying to do 2 a month, and we'll probably do more, but please let us know. We would love to have you on there and learn more about you and ask some really good questions. We're just getting it going and just learning ourselves. There are some on the website that you can go and check out and watch and listen so you can get an idea of what it is, but we are also evolving every time we do that. So please let us know, email Chloe or Tamara, myself, and let us know if you would like to be on there. One of the other things that we're doing too is a leadership committee, just so you know. Our leadership committee is not a governance. There's no titles, there's no responsibilities, but we will have a leadership committee that oversees kind of the task force. It is meant to support the initiatives. It's meant to give a kickstart if we hit a roadblock, if we need connections, if we need some guidance, whatever that is. That's what the leadership is there to do, and it's to oversee and kind of help with all of the initiatives and the task force in general, planning it out for the year. And then one big thing about the leadership committee is we will have succession planning. So there's terms, and as the term happens, we will have succession planning. We'll have new leaders coming in before the current ones go. So that's something new that we're also doing. We're excited about that. And I think that's it.
Oh, definitely. And the corner is fun. Always come to the corner. I think a lot of times when I end every one of our segments, I always say when it comes to community engagement, we got to remember the corners that keep us together. And this has become our corner. We do amazing things here. I want to be able to highlight every last one of you guys. It's sort of like reintroducing the community back to the community. You guys all work at great organizations. Let's leverage those organizations, but I want to leverage you guys as people and tell your story on why you're doing this work. I'm learning that the community really ravels around hearing you guys' stories because they can relate to those stories, and we all have them, and we got to start telling them. As we move forward, we have a lot of great things to do. We have so much to do, and we're not stopping. I think every year, like Kelly said, 2.0, 3.0, 5.0, I used to joke with Juliana. It's like, okay, we're at the task force 1.0, 2.0, 3. We're moving up. And it seems like every time we just go higher and higher and we push for more because we're great. We all have great talent. We all have great skill. So all of us don't have to be great at everything because we're surrounded by greatness. And that's all of you guys. So highlight yourselves, give yourselves an applaud because you guys wake up to do this work all the time. And for those that do this work, we know that we think about it 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. We don't just stop thinking about this work at 5 o'clock. We're always thinking, we're always trying to figure out the next best move. So make sure that while you're doing that, you guys are taking care of yourself. Your mental health is everything. Don't overdo it. Take your time back. Respect yourself, respect your work-life balance. And if you guys ever need anything from any one of us, please reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out for help. Don't be afraid to say, you know what, you just don't have it. The energy's just not there, because somebody should be able to be next to you and push you to keep going, or at least take the load off you for a little while you're trying to bounce back and figure things out. That is the task force. That is our mission. We are one big family. We are Motown. We are the best. And I love that because I rock with the best. I thank you guys so much for coming out and spending time with us. Thank you guys again for the presentation. It was absolutely beautiful. Before we get out, please give yourself just give yourself rounds of applause, man. We did this. We're doing this together. We did this through a pandemic. We're coming out of a pandemic. We're going to keep doing this. We're going to continue to be great. Thank you guys so much, man. Enjoy the rest of your day. For the leaders, please stay on so we can regroup for a quick second. I love every last one of you guys.